Good evening, everyone. Like thousands of Americans, I went and saw Captain Marvel this weekend, and I wanted to talk about it. Got a little notepad here of some pros and cons. Just gonna jump into some things I liked first, and then maybe get into some things I didn't like. I'll just say overall, meh. If you're on the fence about going to see it, if you want to see it, go see it. You'll be entertained. It's Marvel. There's gonna be something you like in there. Um, Not their best, not their strongest. I was expecting more. It's not bad. But if you're worried that if you miss this, you're gonna be so lost for Endgame next month that you're fine. You get the pager from Fury, but you already know she has that because of the end credit scene from Infinity War. I am gonna spoil things. Not maybe all of it. I'm just gonna talk about the movie and probably stuff that is important or would otherwise surprise you if you didn't know beforehand. So, spoiler warning, and let's do this. I want to start with my pros. The soundtrack, there were kind of, I guess, reminiscent of Thor Ragnarok. There was these very techy, spacey, electric beats that were came up a few times throughout the movie, and I really liked that. I liked that in Thor Ragnarok. Another recent movie that uses that a lot is Ex Machina. Again, really electric, very techy sounding. I wanted more of that in this movie. It only comes up a few times. I liked it when it was there. I wish it had been there more. It's set in the early 90s, so there's a lot of early 90s kind of pop music or rock. So if you like that era and genre, you're going to love the soundtrack. I could take it or leave it. I liked those techie parts of the score. The CG, Marvel, really good VFX team, so that's fine. I kept reading going into this movie that the de aging process or whatever, or the tech they used to make Samuel Jackson look younger. Everyone's saying it's good, and I thought it looked good. I don't know any better. I'm not a computer graphics expert or anything. I'm really stupid. So if you tell me, oh yeah, that looks good, I'm gonna be, yeah, it looks good to me too. So it looked like a younger Samuel L. Jackson, which is exactly what the point was. So that was fine. Um, Something that's to this movie's credit and actually kind of hurts it later, but I'll talk about both. It's very much a standalone movie. You kind of get the other Avengers in the in credit scenes, and the Cube, the Tesseract, is a part of this movie. But apart from that, it's its own thing. Something that really bugged me about Spider-Man: Homecoming was that Iron Man Tony Stark was like a main character in what was supposed to be this Spider-Man's first standalone movie in this Marvel set. And I get it because they're trying to have like a Tony's like I want to be the give you the dad I never had thing in that Spider-Man movie. But I wanted it to be Spider-Man's movie, and I feel like that's a little overshadowed when this other really popular hero's there. Uh, and like Hulk's a main character in Thor Ragnarok, but we have two other Thor movies where it's just about Thor. So I thought it was good that this movie just tried to be about Carol and Captain Marvel and her story, and it's not saturated with other superheroes, or it doesn't try to use cameos as a crutch. I like that, and I think I respect that choice because now you have these dozens of other heroes and characters. Oh, email. That you can kind of bring in to maybe get people in the seats or get people excited, and they didn't tap that. They kind of left those characters to the side, except for this end credits scene, which we'll talk about later, maybe. But no, and I do like that. Having said all that, those were my pros. We're going to move on to some cons here. There's a few more of those. I'll go ahead and just start. I keep looking at my list. So I'm sorry. With the biggest one has to deal with characterization. And to help illustrate my point, I would like to first talk about 2008's Iron Man. And it's by itself so good, and I think a big part of why I like it and why it works is how much time is spent on the characterization of Tony. I think you get this also. I think in the first Thor, which I don't like very much, and Captain America: The First Avenger, which I think is a little slow. but I think they both, all three of those movies, Iron Man, the first Thor, and the first Captain America, take a lot of time really, really uh, fleshing out these characters. And we really liked these characters, which is why we were so excited to see them meet and interact and go on adventures together. Um, of those three examples, I think Iron Man's the strongest. I'm going to go with that. But the you get so much time spent on Tony. We know who he is pretty early on in the movie, as kind of just this rich, know-it-all, sarcastic asshole who's funny, but you're kind of like, oh, come on, dude, straighten up. You have all these great people and friends trying to help you and be around you, and you know, we go on and you like him by the end of the movie because he's had such this huge change. He went through this terrible experience when his convoy or whatever gets hit and he gets kidnapped and he's held in the cave, and then this he meets this gentle guy that gets killed helping him escape. And we really the movie did a good job showing us how that affected him and how that changed him and set him on a different path. Like had he not had this experience, Tony would have still been an asshole. He goes through this horrible traumatic thing and we see him actively trying to be better. And I think the movie is so good at breaking down and showing us how he was before the transition and after. And I think that's very compelling and a big reason why I and a lot of other people probably really like that movie. And like I said, a lot of the other earlier Marvel movies, I think, put in the due time and effort to flesh out the characters so you know who they are. You know what they're about, you know where they've been, and then maybe why these horrible or hard experiences they have shape who they are. And that's something this movie did not do, even though it was just about Captain Marvel. So I'm sure, like the trailers give this away. It's a whole other video coming about how much of I think movies get ruined by their trailers. That's a whole other discussion. But you probably know from the trailers or just reading about this movie, Carol, Captain Marvel, doesn't remember her past. She's like, I had a life on Earth. She doesn't know where she's from. She as far as she know, she's part of this alien warrior team, and that's all she's done. She knows she had a life before that, but she doesn't remember it. And we kind of get it a little bit in flashbacks. She's obviously like from kind of this smaller rural part of America, and kind of throughout her life is kind of pushed down, whether by it's her dad or bullies or jerks in the Air Force who are noticeably men, and that is part of what this movie's about. I'm sorry if that theme upsets you, but part of it is about women empowerment, and I'm sorry if that upsets you, but um, we get glimpses of that throughout the movie. She kind of, and I'm sure you can kind of picture, she has like flashbacks or, oh, I think I remember something. And it's her when she's a little kid. It's her at basic training for the Air Force. So we see bits of that, but we never really get the time with her without the suit. When the movie starts, she is already powered up. She already has powers. Her powers are like 50% because she has this little chip thing that's kind of like an inhibitor she has to break. I did say I was going to spoil it. And that's a conflict later in the movie, is her breaking the chip to get her full 100% power. But when the movie starts, she's able to use her powers and is already a part of this alien Kree crime alien scroll fighting squad, and is just kind of in it. We don't get really a lot of time with her as a little girl, or even as her like as a regular human training for the Air Force. When Iron Man starts and when Captain America starts, they're regular people, and it's the hardship that turns them into Iron Man and Captain America. Like Thor's name is Thor, but that whole movie, he really becomes the hero at the end when he changes, when we see him go from the arrogant prince character who thinks he can do anything and is invincible. He's humble. The movie is him going to Earth, losing his hammer and his power, and him having to learn some lessons to get to where he is. And we just kind of start with Captain Marvel already having powers. Not sure where she came from. You see where she gets the powers at the end of the movie. And you get to kind of learn like where she came from, what her life was, but there's no really, that's all expository and kind of a lot of delivered to us through dialogue. we don't get screen time or a lot of screen time with the actresses who play like young Carol. Or I don't think even you needed that. I think what I would have liked is for the first half hour of this movie to be her going through training at the Air Force. We see her getting pushed down for being a girl, or we see her getting pushed down for the reasons, or see her having to fight and struggle without powers. Because even when they give us like the expository stuff of who she was on Earth, she's already like this awesome, cool, kick-ass, I'm gonna do the right thing person, and then incidentally gets superpowers. I don't like there's no big lesson or mountain she kind of climbs over. She spends her whole life showing I'm gonna prove myself, and that's great. That's great. Like I'm gonna prove myself. I'm gonna be an Air Force pilot. And she gets to do all that, and that's great. There's just really we don't get to see her overcome that. It's told to us, and I think it does hurt this movie. I keep saying the same thing, so I'm gonna move on. It hurts this movie that we don't really get to see her character grow. She starts with powers, she ends with more powers, and I think more time was earned to see her without the suit, more of who she is without the powers. That's me. Let's move on to some other nitpicky things. That's I think really the meat of why this movie didn't work for me though is you have these other movies where they're so careful and put so much time into the characterization of the hero, and this movie kind of fails to do that. Having said that, some other things. There's some really weird lighting things that I'm going to point to two specific examples. She's Carol, Captain Marvel, Brie Larson. She's having a conversation with a friend at like a breakfast table in a dining room kind of area. If they're in a house, and it's the middle of the day, and I know it's the middle of the day because they have all the blinds of the window open and a lot of really bright. I had to have my eyes adjusted a little bit. It was a little harsh, so that makes me sound old. But you have all this natural light flooding into the house, and again, I'm kind of squinting for my eyes to adjust and accept. Okay, it's the middle of the day. They're talking, whatever. And then I got pulled out of the movie because while my eyes are getting used to like all this harsh light coming in from the window, they have electronic lamp on the table they're talking to turned on, and then like there's another electric lamp like on a desk table near them that's turned on. And I don't know, if it's nice and sunny out, normally when I'm home, you just leave the blinds open in the middle of the day, and you don't turn on a bunch of lights. Or maybe if you have the lights on, the blinds are closed, then you don't realize that you can get natural light. I don't know. It was just weird that it's clearly a really sunny day out and the blinds are open. There's all this light and they had all these other electric lights turned on. It was kind of weird to look at. That's a very, I guess, nitpicky thing. Maybe it doesn't bother other people. I thought it looked weird, and it did look weird to me, the lighting, having said that. So that was one scene. There was another lighting scene. So you've probably seen her suit's green, and then it becomes red and blue like we see in the comics. I don't really read comics anyway. But her suit changes color. So another spoiler, the Kree turn out to be the bad guys. They're this alien fighting squad that she's with who all wear green suits. You've seen Jude Law and some other actors. They're walking around the green suits. That's her team she starts with. They turn out to be bad guys. So towards the end of the movie, she's like, well, I don't want to wear their colors anymore. So she starts like playing with the settings on her suit. She has like a tablet on her forearm where she like can communicate with people and Apex Legends pain things, I guess, and change the colors of her suit, incidentally. And it's not uncommon in superhero stuff to show the character going through different outfits or trying on different things. The first episode of Supergirl is her trying on different looks. There's that scene in Wonder Woman where she's like trying on the different outfits. Now again, I'm dumb. I want to see a bunch of different bright, colorful outfits, and they try to give us that. And she's playing with the setting on the suit, and the suit's changing to all these fun colors, where she keeps going, no, no. But while this is happening, right, she's going through different suit colors. She's standing on this dark ass porch in the middle of the night, so you can't really see any of them. Even when she gets to her final red and blue classic Captain Marvel looking suit, you can't see it that well because it's nighttime and she's standing outside. Like she's not lit well. So when they're going through the different suit colors and making jokes and oh not this one or oh that's not my style, I want to see and laugh along with it, but you can't because they just didn't light their lead actress, who's the main character of the film, which is named after Captain Marvel. The one exception being one of the suit ideas or colors was just like all these LEDs covering the suit. So that's cool, and that makes sense that it was dark out. But she went through like four different suit combos, and only one of those makes sense to wear at night. I would love to see a lot of more colorful outfits. So I was robbed there. Let me see here. Okay. Another big thing. Lack of punch. And what I mean by that is there's these moments that you could tell they really wanted. They were supposed to be like big action shots that were everyone was supposed to be clearing it, clapping and applauding and cheering for. And I don't think any of them landed like they were supposed to. So in other Marvel movies, I would like to point out, okay, Winter Soldier. I think there's a lot of great action and fight choreography in that people got really excited and into. There's a lot of really cool moments of that. Even cooler, in my opinion, is when Thor gets to Wakanda in Infinity War. My whole theater was freaking out when I went to go see that because it's so badass and his eyes are lighting up. He has his new axe thing. He's shooting lightning at everything, and it's really, really cool. Um, and they try to do that, and you could tell because like the music flares up, the camera focuses on Captain Marvel. She's flying around, but they just don't land. They don't have the oomph or the punch that these other moments like Thor and Infinity War had. To me, I don't know. It felt like it fell a little flat. The theater, and I was in a crowded theater. It's opening weekend still. They weren't exploding with applause, which opening night. I like going to Marvel movies opening weekend because I think the audiences are more fun. I think they laugh more. I think they're more engaged. I think they participate more with what's happening in the movie. It's funny because if you ever see a Marvel movie more than once, it's funny to go opening weekend and then waiting 2 weeks. The people opening weekend that they're cheering, they're into it, man, and it's really fun. And I don't know, maybe that's a bad gauge, but I was in there too, and I didn't feel as wowed as I had in the past, or what I come to expect from these movies. Let me see. Yeah, so all things considered, meh. I think this movie could have been a lot better and should have been. I think the first again half hour of this movie should have been showing Carol before she has any sort of powers. I think the audience really needs to be allowed to get to know her before she's a superhero. I think that's the one biggest thing that could have been fixed. I don't know. If you want to see it, go see it. If you don't, you'll be fine. Endgame's still gonna make sense. You're not really missing anything. Uh, yeah, if you want to go. Don't boycott movies. People are talking about boycotting this too. There's a bunch of neckbeards. It sounds stupid when you read about it online. You look stupid for starting your. Just don't. If you don't want to see it, don't see it. Don't go start a petition online asking to boycott a movie. It's just dumb. Yeah, I don't know. Meh. If you want to see it, see it. So, see ya. I have one more thing to add, and it relates more to the humor of this movie. Can someone please tell me in the comments, in the Captain Marvel comics, if Carol's supposed to be funny, or if she's a smart aleck too? Because Brie Larson, she just comes out the gate storming with the funny, and some lands, some doesn't. But I wasn't prepared for it. I thought, I don't know, the trailers made her seem a little more serious or like fish out of water kind of with this movie, but she just on that sarcasm train with Iron Man and Ant Man, and I feel like every other MCU character. The funny's kind of a lot of their bread and butter, I guess. But I don't know. That's the character. That's the character. I don't really read the comics, so I was just curious. There's some funny stuff about the '90s too. The setting of this movie, the '90s, like the setting's a character, like in a lot of movies. So they kind of rip on like Blockbuster and dial-up internet, and some of it's funny, some doesn't land. So I was just curious if in the comics she's supposed to be a smart aleck, because that's kind of how she is in this movie. But thanks, yeah.